What if the most dangerous man in a woman's life is the one holding the ring? Because what we uncovered about Ashlee Jenae's fiancé, his real past, the version he carefully kept off the internet, is darker than anything you've seen reported. And it is worse than you think. She was 31 years old, ring on her finger, lions in the background, posting from what her family called the trip of a lifetime. 4 days later, she was dead. And the man who got down on one knee in front of her was the first one to tell police she did it to herself. But here is what nobody is talking about. Before this trip, before the proposal, before Zanzibar, before any of it, Joe McCann's world was already on fire. $100 million wiped out, his entire reputation in finance crumbling in silence. And Ashlee Jenae, this vibrant, beautiful woman with 130,000 people following her life, had become the last polished piece of an image that was falling apart behind closed doors. She was the story he was still able to tell. And when that story started slipping, everything changed. Her own followers saw it first. They left warnings in her comment section, on her public posts, before she ever stepped foot on that plane. Her family found out she was gone, not from the man who proposed to her 4 days earlier, but from a hotel employee thousands of miles away. No call, no explanation, nothing. The deeper you go into Joe McCann's past, the darker it gets, and the harder it becomes to look at this situation and call it anything close to simple. Everything confirmed, everything reported, every detail this case demands. Stay locked in, because this one will change how you see everything. Before we get into what happened in that villa, you need to know who Ashlee Jenae actually was. Not the headline, not the thumbnail, not the tragedy, the person. Her real name was Ashlee Robinson, born and raised with deep roots. In her family, she built her life in Miami, Florida. And somewhere along the way, she discovered that a camera, an honest smile, and a genuine personality could connect her to people she had never met. She called herself Ashlee Jenae online. And 130,000 people followed her because of one simple reason. She made them feel something. Her Instagram wasn't a highlight reel of products and sponsorships. It was color. It was energy. Travel content, outfits, adventures, laughter. The kind of page you stumble onto at midnight and suddenly it's 2 in the morning and you've watched everything she ever posted. Because she felt real. She felt like somebody you could actually know. And that is rare. But here's what you wouldn't get from scrolling her feed. Ashlee wasn't just an aesthetic. She wasn't just content. The people who actually knew her, her friends, the people in her corner, they all described the same woman. Someone rooted, someone deeply connected to her family, someone who called her mother, someone who showed up. Her parents, Yolanda and Harry, have spoken to nearly every major outlet since this story broke. And through every interview, through every question, through every moment of visible heartbreak, their answer has been the same. Their daughter was happy. She wasn't in crisis. She wasn't struggling in silence. She wasn't giving anyone, not her family, not her followers, not a single person close to her, any reason to worry. She was building something, a life, a future, and she was excited about it. Which is exactly why what happened next is so difficult to process. Because here's a detail I need you to hold on to, and we are going to come back to this later in the video, I promise you that. In the months before this trip, before Tanzania, before the ring, before any of it, at least one of Ashlee's followers had already seen something, had already felt something was off. And that person went directly to Ashlee's comment section on her public posts and left a warning about Joe by name. And Ashlee saw it. We know she saw it. What we don't know, what may be one of the most painful questions her family carries right now, is what she thought when she read it. Whether she brushed it off, whether it stayed with her, whether, on some quiet night, it crossed her mind again. We'll get to that comment, what it said, and when it was posted. That's coming. But first, you need to understand the world that Joe McCann built, because nothing about what happened in Zanzibar makes sense without understanding the man at the center of it, and the very specific world he had spent 25 years carefully constructing. The setting of this story isn't just a luxury resort on a Tanzanian island. It's Wall Street, it's Silicon Valley, it's the crypto conference circuit, a world of private jets, keynote stages, and 8-figure handshakes, where your reputation is your most valuable asset, where the appearance of winning matters just as much as actually winning, sometimes more. Joe McCann understood that world better than almost anyone. He's 45 years old, Miami-based, and on paper, his resume reads like a roadmap of the American success story. He started at Microsoft, moved into finance, built his instincts at Passport Capital, a serious, well-respected hedge fund out of San Francisco, where he sharpened his edge in quantitative crypto trading. Then he did something most people in his position don't do. He bet on himself. He founded NodeSource, an enterprise technology company, built it from the ground up, and exited successfully in 2019. That kind of track record opens doors, and for Joe McCann, the door it opened led directly to his biggest move yet: Asymmetric Financial, his own crypto hedge fund and venture capital firm. CEO, founder, chief investment officer. His name, his judgment, his vision, the entire operation built around one man's ability to read markets that most people couldn't even begin to understand. And it wasn't just his reputation backing it. The fund attracted support from Mark Andreessen and Chris Dixon, two of the most powerful names in the entire venture capital universe. For anyone who doesn't live in that world, let me put it plainly. Getting a cosign from Andreessen Horowitz is the tech and finance equivalent of Warren Buffett publicly backing your company. It does not happen by accident. It does not happen to people who haven't earned it. It signals to every serious investor watching, this person is legitimate. This person is worth paying attention to. And the crypto world did pay attention. McCann became a loud, aggressive, deeply confident voice on social media, known for bold market calls, known for his conviction in Solana, a major cryptocurrency, at a time when most institutional money was still skeptical. He spoke at major industry corporate conferences. He wrote long, detailed threads that finance people screenshot and shared. He positioned himself as the man who was bringing order, bringing credibility, bringing adult supervision to a space that desperately needed it. He wasn't just a fund manager, he was a brand. And here is the one thing you need to understand about that world, the thing that makes everything that comes next make sense. In crypto finance, your reputation is your product. It's not a bonus, it's not a nice to have, it is the entire thing. If people believe you're a winner, capital flows toward you. Opportunities appear, doors open. The moment they stop believing, everything stops. And something had already started to stop. Long before Ashlee Jenae ever posted that Safari proposal video, long before that ring ever touched her finger. We'll get there. Joe McCann and Ashlee Jenae had been together for about a year and a half, and for most of that time, you wouldn't have known it from looking at either of their pages. McCann kept his personal life locked down. No couple photos, no relationship content, no glimpses behind the curtain. For a man who was loud and opinionated about everything in the finance world, he was remarkably quiet about the woman in his life. We'll come back to that. But by late 2025, Ashlee started posting about him. Photos together at events, travel content, little moments. The kind of posts that tell your followers something real is happening here, something worth sharing. And her audience noticed. They commented, they celebrated with her. Because that's the kind of community she had built, people who genuinely wanted good things for her. Then came the trip, Tanzania, a birthday celebration, her 31st. According to reporting from CBS News and confirmed by her family, the couple arrived at the Zuri Zanzibar resort on April 6, 2026. But the trip had actually started before that, because on April 3rd, Joe McCann got down on one knee during a safari in the middle of the African wilderness, with wildlife in the background and the whole scene captured on camera. Ashlee said yes, and then she did what Ashlee always did. She shared it. She posted the video, and in the caption, she wrote 7 words that her family now has to carry with them every single day. "If this is a dream, no one wake me up." Her followers lost their minds, in the best way. Comments flooding in, people screaming in all caps, congratulations from strangers who felt like they knew her. And 2 days later, on April 5th, her actual birthday, she posted again, from the villa, celebrating, surrounded by beauty, glowing in a way that only someone genuinely happy, genuinely present, genuinely at peace with their life, glows. To everyone watching her feed, this was a fairy tale. A beautiful woman, a powerful man, a proposal in Africa, a luxury resort on the coast of Zanzibar. This was the dream playing out in real time. And 130,000 people had front row seats. And in those photos, Ashlee looks exactly like someone living one. She called her mother 2 days later. The tone of that call was very, very different. We'll get to that call. But first, I need to tell you what was happening on Joe McCann's side of this story. Because while Ashlee was posting from paradise, the man beside her was quietly managing something he had not told the world about yet. The fairy tale had a very different backstage. Asymmetric's flagship product was called the Liquid Alpha Fund, and when it launched, it was genuinely impressive. The fund was built specifically for high-volatility crypto markets, the kind of chaotic, unpredictable environment that scares most institutional investors away. But McCann had designed a strategy for exactly that environment, and for a while, it worked. Multiple performance awards from Barclay Hedge, one of the most respected benchmarking firms in the hedge fund industry. Institutional money flowing in. Results that backed up everything McCann had been saying about himself on conference stages and crypto Twitter. Joe McCann, on paper, was exactly what he said he was. Then, the market changed. Crypto volatility dropped significantly. The chaotic conditions the fund was built to exploit started to stabilize. And a strategy that thrives on chaos does not survive calm. By 2025, the fund was reportedly down approximately 78%. According to industry estimates, that represented losses exceeding $100 million. Let that number sit for a second. $100 million. Gone. An 80% wipeout of investor capital in a single year. In a world where your reputation is your product, that is not just a bad quarter. That is not just a rough patch. That is an existential crisis. The kind that follows you into every room you walk into from that point forward. So what did McCann do? He announced the fund was closing. He told investors publicly that the strategy was, in his words, clearly no longer serving them. He offered limited partners the option to exit without the standard lockup restrictions that normally keep investor money trapped for months or years. And then, almost immediately, he announced something new, a brand new venture called Accelerate, a Solana-focused treasury company. And the target raise? $1 billion. Now, if you understand how this world works, you know exactly what that move looks like. It looks like a man who just set fire to one building, announcing he's going to construct a bigger, better one across the street before anyone has time to ask about the smoke. The credibility damage was real. The losses were real. But the persona had to stay in place. Because in this industry, you do not survive by admitting you lost. You survive by making your next move so loud that nobody has time to look back at the last one. And here is the detail that I need you to sit with. The fund collapsed. In the same year he got engaged to Ashlee. The same year he planned the Tanzania trip. The same year she posted that safari proposal video. Now, I want to be careful here, precise. Nothing I'm about to say is an accusation. No charges have been filed. The investigation is still active. What I'm giving you is context. The kind of context that investigators, financial analysts, and psychologists who specialize in these patterns are already looking at publicly. And the question they're asking is this: when a man's financial identity is collapsing, when the thing that made him feel powerful, credible, and exceptional is gone, what does he hold on to? What becomes the last remaining symbol that his life is still working? For Joe McCann, a man who had spent 25 years building an identity around being the smartest, most successful person in the room, Ashlee Jenae fit that symbol in a very specific way. She was beautiful. She was popular. She had a real, engaged following. In the finance and tech world McCann operated in, a partner like Ashlee is not just a relationship. She is social proof. She is visible evidence that your life is still together, even when your fund is not. She made him look like a man whose world was working. And that, in a world where perception is everything, is worth more than most people realize. Again, this is analysis, not accusation, but the pattern of a high-performing public persona, a private financial collapse, and an urgent need to control the narrative. That is a pattern investigators are specifically trained to identify. And it matters here, because on the night of April 7th, 2026, something happened between Joe McCann and Ashlee Jenae inside that resort. Something serious enough that the hotel itself had to step in. Here is what Tanzanian investigators have confirmed. Not alleged, not speculated, confirmed. On the night of April 7th, 2026, Ashlee Jenae and Joe McCann had a serious argument inside their villa at the Zanzibar resort. Serious enough that it wasn't something hotel staff could ignore. Serious enough that management made the decision to physically intervene and separate them. McCann was moved to a different villa, approximately a 10-minute walk from where Ashlee was staying. Think about that for a moment. They had just gotten engaged 4 days earlier. This trip was supposed to be a celebration, a birthday, a beginning. And by April 7th, the hotel itself had decided these two people could not stay in the same space. That same night, Ashlee called her mother. She told Yolanda what had happened, that there had been an argument, that they had been moved apart. Her mother later described her as clearly distressed, upset in a way that was hard to ignore, even through a phone screen thousands of miles away. Yolanda stayed on that call with her daughter. She listened. She comforted her. She did what mothers do. What Yolanda didn't know, what she had absolutely no way of knowing in that moment, was that this was the last time she would ever hear her daughter's voice. The next call she received would not come from Joe McCann. It would not come from Ashlee. It would come from a hotel in a country she had never visited, telling her that her daughter was gone. On April 8th, 2026, Ashlee Jenae was found unconscious inside her villa. She was rushed to a local hospital. She was pronounced dead on April 9th, 2026. She was 31 years old. Now, here is the detail that has stopped people cold. The detail that Ashlee's family has said they cannot move past. The detail that investigators are specifically looking at. And if you've been paying attention this entire video, this is the moment everything shifts. McCann reportedly waited approximately 11 hours before contacting Ashlee's mother. 11 hours. And when he finally did call, did not tell her that Ashlee was gone. He told her that Ashlee had been hospitalized. He told her she was stable. She was not stable. According to the family's account, shared directly with CBS News, Ashlee had already been found unresponsive hours before that call ever came through. Yolanda told CBS News exactly what happened on that phone call. She said, "I asked him when it happened and where it happened. and he told me that something had occurred 11 hours prior to when he was reaching out to me. 11 hours of silence, and then a call that didn't even tell the truth. And then, nothing. The communication stopped completely. No follow-up, no updates, no explanation. The next time Ashlee's family received any information about their daughter, it did not come from the man who had proposed to her. It came from a hotel employee, a stranger, someone who worked at the front desk of a resort that Ashlee's parents had never heard of, calling to inform them that their child had died. Her father, Harry Robinson, said it plainly to CBS News, and I want you to hear his exact words because they matter. The fiancé did not reach out to us at all. We found out from the hotel. That's devastating when your daughter's halfway around the world. That's a father, trying to hold himself together on camera, saying out loud what most of us would not be able to say without completely falling apart. And it gets worse, because Ashlee's family, desperate for answers, desperate for any information about what was happening, went to the United States Embassy in Washington, D.C. They went in person. They sat down. They asked for help. They left without any. A grieving American family, their daughter dead in a foreign country, and the systems that are supposed to exist for moments exactly like this one gave them nothing. Now, while all of this was unfolding, while Ashlee's parents were sitting in an embassy with no answers, Joe McCann's social media was active. On the morning of April 8th, the same morning Ashlee was found unresponsive in that villa, McCann had posted on social media about what he called an AI success story. A work post, a finance post, business as usual. And I want to be precise here because this matters. Posting about work in the morning is not by itself evidence of anything. People operate on autopilot. Scheduled posts exist. I'm not telling you that post proves something happened. What I'm telling you is the context it sits inside. An 11-hour delay before calling her family. A call that said she was stable when she was not. Complete silence after that. And a work post on the morning his fiancé of 4 days was found unconscious in a villa 10 minutes away from his. Taken together, that picture makes people deeply uncomfortable, and it should. But it wasn't just that post. It was the behavior that followed, the absence of any public acknowledgement, the silence where most people, the most normal, grieving people, would be visibly devastated. Profile photos changing. No statement, no nothing, just quiet. And Ashlee's community, the same 130,000 people who had cheered for her proposal, who had celebrated her birthday with her, who had watched her build something beautiful, they noticed. They flooded McCann's social media with questions, with screenshots, with timelines they had pieced together themselves, with the kind of collective demand for answers that the internet is uniquely capable of producing when something doesn't sit right. Now, remember that detail I mentioned back at the beginning of this video? That warning? The one a follower left in Ashlee's comment section, months before this trip ever happened? Here's what we know about it. According to reporting on this case, at least one of Ashlee's followers had flagged serious concerns about Joe McCann directly in her comment section, by name, before Tanzania, before the engagement, before any of this. And Ashlee's family has since described that detail as one of the things that makes this situation feel, in their own words, like it doesn't look right. Someone saw something, said something, and now a young woman is gone. So where does the official investigation actually stand right now? What has Tanzania confirmed on the record? And what exactly is Joe McCann's legal situation? Because his passport is sitting in a Tanzanian police station and he has not left that island. That is exactly where we're going next. So where does this case officially stand right now? As of April 16, 2026, Tanzanian authorities say Joe McCann is still being questioned and his travel documents have been withheld. Police have not announced any arrest. They have not named him a suspect. At this stage, he is being questioned as a witness. That distinction matters. Authorities have also said the death is being treated as a suspected suicide, while medical and forensic reports are still pending. So to be precise, there has been no public ruling of foul play, no criminal charge, and no official final conclusion. The investigation is still active. What the family is asking for is simple. They want transparency. They want access to surveillance footage, and they want answers they believe they still do not have. And that is where the case becomes difficult, because officially it is unresolved. But emotionally, for the people who loved Ashlee, the official version is not enough. Now go back to Joe McCann's financial world for a second. By the time this trip happened, his fund had already taken massive losses, and reporting from last year said Asymmetric's Liquid Alpha fund was down about 78% before it was wound down. Around that same period, McCann was also linked to a new Solana-focused venture called Accelerate that was reportedly aiming to raise around $1 billion to $1.5 billion. That matters for one reason. This was not a man coming into Tanzania at the peak of his power. This was a man already dealing with pressure, financial pressure, reputational pressure, and the pressure of trying to build the next version of himself in public. And then look at the trip itself. The ring, the safari, the villa, the posts, the proposal video. Everything looked polished. Everything looked public. Everything looked like a life that was working. And sometimes that matters more than people realize. But the real weight of this story is with Ashlee's parents. In interview after interview, they have said the same thing. She was happy, she was excited, and nothing about this feels right to them. Her mother said she had no reason to believe her daughter would harm herself. Her father said the story simply does not add up. They have gone to the US Embassy, they have asked questions. They have launched a GoFundMe to help with travel and funeral costs while trying to get answers from thousands of miles away. As of April 15th, that fundraiser had already raised over $40,000. And as of this recording, the autopsy and forensic findings have not been publicly released. So the official picture is still incomplete, which leaves this case in the most uncomfortable place possible. Not closed, not explained, and not settled for the people who loved her most. And then, there is one detail that is hard to ignore. In the hours before Ashlee was found, Joe McCann was posting on social media about what he called an AI success story. A work post, a brand post, business as usual. And that detail, by itself, does not prove anything, but placed beside everything else, the argument, the separation, the 11-hour delay, the silence to her family, it lands differently. I'll let you sit with that. Because underneath the influencer headlines and the crypto backstory, this case comes down to something much simpler. A young woman died thousands of miles from home, and the people who loved her most say they still do not have a clear answer why. Her parents did not learn the truth from her fiancé. They did not get clarity from the system quickly. They were left chasing information across countries, across agencies, across silence. That is part of why this story has hit so hard. It is also about the warnings, public comments, public concern, people seeing something was off before this trip ever happened. And now those warnings read very differently. As of today, this is where it stands. No charges, an active investigation, a family demanding answers, and a man still in Tanzania without his passport. That is not resolution. That is a case still hanging in the air. Ashlee Jenae, Ashlee Robinson, was 31 years old. She was a daughter. She was a woman with a real life, real people, and a future she was clearly excited about. She shared her engagement with joy. She shared her birthday with joy. And the people who followed her were not watching a headline. They were watching someone they cared about. Now, her family is left trying to bring her home and trying to understand what happened to her. And they deserve every answer this investigation can provide. What stays with me is the comment section. Someone saw something, someone said something, and they said it before the trip. So the question is not just what happened in Zanzibar, it is this: At what point does a curated life stop being just content and start revealing something real? And when people do see it, how much louder should they say it? This case is still developing, and we will keep following it. The moment there is a major update, autopsy results, investigative findings, anything official, we will break it down here. So if you want the full story as it develops, subscribe, like this video, share it, and tell me in the comments what stood out to you most. For Ashlee's family, we are watching, and we are not looking away.